I'm going to talk about something that maybe you didn't hear during these last years. So I'm going to talk about a pandemic. But I'm going to talk about the amphibian pandemic, which is even worse, but no one is paying so much attention. So the thing is, my point of the night is like, I want also to introduce you and to discover why also this matters to you. So let's start. So the thing is like, the first question that you should be, or I hope to answer you is like, who am I? So I'm an ecologist or environmentalist or something that goes to the field and take animals around. That's also another word. So in general, I always, during my entire adult life, let's say, I was dedicated to the nature and to the conservation of nature. So in particular, I was focused on amphibians. And right now, I'm trying to pursue also this goal here in Okinawa. So maybe, and this is just an assumption, when you hear about amphibians, this is what it comes to your mind. Like something that jumps and just is like a little slimy. And for some people it's disgusting, I don't understand why. But I also want to tell you that there are other amphibians that you have to pay attention, that are also more than frogs and toads. So, but I don't know how much do you know about it. So the thing is, which of the amphibians that maybe or may not are here included on the picture? So now I'm waiting also for your answers about like, is that an amphibian? Okay, so we have here a really experienced audience. So I'm going to follow even harder. So is that an amphibian? Okay, there we have already some discussion. But let's say that is another colorful gecko. So no, it's not an amphibian, but we are working on it. So, and is that an amphibian? Okay, so this is one of the amphibians from Okinawa. This is one of the salamanders of Okinawa. And that one in particular has a very, very, very cool feature. Do I have pointer? Yes. So if you realize about these points, these are the ribs of the amphibian. And if you are putting in an angry mode, this animal is able to put the ribs out through these holes in order to protect himself. So that's why they are called crocodile newts. So this can be something that you could take as a mistake, but it's an amphibian, not a reptile, not crocodiles, okay? What about this one? Is that an amphibian? This is the other species of salamanders that exist in Okinawa. So you already know all the salamanders and newts from Okinawa, so congratulations. So this one is very cool and is, let's say, more abundant than the previous one, but is starting to be in danger because of all the damage that we are doing to the habitat. So they are like starting to have a lack of habitat, so that's why they are like in decline, together with many other factors that I'm going to try to explain you. So is that an amphibian? Okay, now I'm very surprised. It's a Cecilia, exactly. This is not from Japan at all. This usually dwells in Africa and some Asian countries. And you can clearly see that it's a totally different animal, but this is still an amphibian. A little weird, we can take that, but it has the same features as of amphibians. And the last one, is that an amphibian? No. It's not, but it's still Okinawan. So this is a reptile, a lizard, that is also present in Okinawa. So now you are knowing already more animals from Okinawa. So you are getting expert here. So honestly, that was a very good game, and I think that you already can pass the amphibian test. So, but what I was coming here to talk about is about what is happening to amphibians. So as maybe you already are getting a little understanding, is like the amphibians is the most threatened vertebrates group by far, and this is one of the major concerns that is I'm trying to give you here. So, and because of that, you can clearly see that the amphibians are already angry with you because of that. So, let's try to talk a little about why they are in risk. So, this, for example, it tries to represent the habitat destruction that we are doing to the amphibians' habitats. This you can think in agriculture, but also you can think in buildings, also you can think in roads. We are destroying many water habitats or polluting them. So that's why the amphibians are in decline because of that factor. Also here, maybe you know this. This is a herbicide, very common, one of the most common ones in the world. And it's already, by the way, proved that it's also cancerous for people, but it's still in rule, even when it was already tried to be banished. And also here we have, this is maybe a less common thing, but it's a pesticide that it has this fantastic feature for the fans of Jurassic Park. So here is how Jurassic Park starts, when suddenly the frogs starting to become from males to females. So yeah, it's real. So after we have invasive species. Maybe you cannot see that one very, very good. This is a bullfrog. This is one of the biggest frogs in the world, and basically eats everything that it is able to fit in her mouth. This is an invasive species here in Japan, and it caused many, many dramatic declines in all the areas that arrive, because literally eats everything, like rodents, birds, all frogs, all tadpoles, everything that is around. So this is a huge problem. Of course, here we have the omnipresent, the climate change. So there are many factors. You can go deeper on that, and I don't have time for that, but of course, this is a major factor for the amphibian decline. And this is also a very typical, or let's say major factor in Asia specifically, that leads like the overexploitation. The majority of the frog legs that are eaten on the entire world are coming from Asia, especially from Indonesia. So this is another factor of the decline of the amphibians, the overexploitation as a food resource. So, and the last factor, and the one that I'm trying to explain you a little more, because this is what I'm really focused on my research, is the emerging infectious diseases. So here I'm going to introduce you just the two major ones, which is the chytridomycosis and the ranavirus. I'm focused on that one, which is basically a fungi disease that is provoked by these two very funny long names, Batrachochytrium dendrobatidis, let's call it BD, just I think that we can take it as an agreement, and also Batrachochytrium salamandrivorans, BISAL, which is basically my topic for research. So just an example about what this tiny fungi can do. Let's see this map. Here you can see the evolution and how quick moves these fungi along a territory from the arrival in Central America and South America. So if you see these lines and all these years, is how the pathogen was moving through the years and causing extinctions of all the population of frogs that were passing by. So this is how fast it is. And we are not talking about a human-mediated pathogen. It's just like it's going with frogs. It goes with the animals. So this is extremely and very fast way of a dispersal of a pathogen. So, and the other one, so what is BISAL? BISAL is another fungi. And this one is specifically affecting to salamander and newts. So not to frogs, not to toads. And it's even more virulent than the previous one that I introduced in the picture with this fast pace of dispersal. So I see already like boring faces. So I'm going to do another way of trying to show you some cool stuff. So it's going to be through cartoons. See here, we are talking about a pathogen that already moves to Europe, and there is causing a dramatic decline of a species. In less than a decade, it's like already able to provoke the extinction of one of the more major representative species of salamanders, the fire salamander. As you can clearly see here, everything is pointing out that the origin of the pathogen is from Asia, but this is still not completely proved, and this is what, in fact, I'm trying to do here. The expectation is it's going to be a major cause of extinction of animals, and we cannot stop it because there are many factors, including human factors, that are making easy how to disperse the pathogen around. So you already know a little bit from a cartoon, which I think that is also a very good way of knowing stuff. So all the things is, and what for I'm talking about all that long thing that I'm telling you. Okay, so the economical importance of a pathogen sometimes is not clearly visible, but here we have already some data. For example, here from US, we already know that the pet market from salamander and newts is over $1 million per year. So we are talking about the legal market. We are not talking about black market, which is very common in animal trade. So here you can start to know why it's so relevant and why it's so important and how can influence by humans is this dispersal of a pathogen. So more cartoons talking about like the pet trade. So this is a major factor that is already proved that is dispersing pathogens around. And in case that you are having some pets in home, this is some advice in order to keep them safe and to keep them responsible. Even if you have a business related with that, this is something that you can do and you can improve in order to avoid the dispersal. So just check it out, and if you still have some doubts, you can talk with me, no problems. We can give you some advice, and we can even collaborate on that. So I said something about US, right? But here we have also some interesting data about Japan. Japan is also a major role of this pet trade of amphibians. So you can clearly see here why is that. If this little word that is here, CITES, just mean like the animals that need a special regulation for being part of the pet trade. So let's say that you have to do more paperwork, so it's even more complicated. So even with that, Japan is the second largest importer of amphibians around the world. We are not talking about Asia, we are talking about around the world, okay? So another dramatic data is that from the species that they were observed in the pet trade in Japan, at least 27% of them, it was proved that they were having like a wild sourcing. So this means like they are taking from the wild directly to be sold. So this is something very important to point. And of course, in Japan there are around 90 species of amphibians. So almost the half are present in the pet trade. So this is also very, very important to mention here. So, and you can think, maybe this is just like an old thing that now is just decreasing. So the data is saying that it's rather the opposite. So the demand of animals during the pet trade is even going higher. And just remember what happened in 2020. So this data, this is kind of a fake, so it is still going high. And you can also think, this is maybe a minor thing. This is maybe not really relevant, but just check this part of here. This is the economical value and economical importance that has this pet trade here in Japan. So we are talking about big things. And okay, Japan is the importer, but who are the exporters to Japan? So here we have a list, and just check that there is a difference on the data, and you can see how the influence of the countries are changing. But I'm going to give you just a small hint why suddenly US is disappearing from here. In 2017, US started a ban of the pet trade of salamander and newts because North America is the place in the world with higher diversity of salamander and newts. So US established a ban in order to try to control the arrival of the pathogen through the pet trade. So what happened? That suddenly US from 21% goes to 8%. That's why it's so important, the regulation. That's why it's so important to put all eyes on the pet trade and other stuff that can be transmitting the pathogen around. So, after that, you could also think like, okay, good data, but what are you doing? Okay, so what I'm doing here is basically just trying to get as much animals as possible to test them and to detect if the pathogen is present here. So then we can know all the extension of the pathogen around Japan, if there are some priority areas, if there are priority species, or if their influence can be both ways, like if the pathogen is native from here, or also can be different arrivals from the pet trade. So what we are pursuing that is like taking animals from wild, but also taking animals from captive. So we are also interested in collaboration with people that is having amphibians, or they are having some business on amphibians. So if you know or you are interested to know more about that, you can contact me without any problem. And of course, what I'm doing now, I'm spreading the alarm and trying to arise and to make awareness about what is the thing with pathogens and why it's so important related with animals. So you can see what we do. We just do some just swabbing on the skin, so we don't do any injury, and nothing related with blood. Very easy, very simple. And that's what we look during the monitoring, so nothing very fancy, as you can see. So why I'm doing that? It's just because I think that amphibians are very cool and very important. This is one of the applications that amphibians have. They have extremely powerful of regeneration of the tissues. So here you can see what is happening to the amphibian tissue in an experiment doing in medical science. So this is very valuable also for people. So there are applications on the amphibian conservation to the human life as well. At the same time, they are able to control diseases, human diseases. So this is what happened with the presence of frogs. They can control the malaria cases, but if the amphibians are in decline, this is what happened to the malaria cases as well. So they are also protecting us. This is also another way of helping, doing citizen science. So the fact of like a younger generation are able to be part of that, I think that is also a good way of promoting like the amphibian conservation. And of course, because they are pretty cool animals. So this is even older than dinosaurs. And just the fancier the dinosaurs. No, come on, that's more cool than a dinosaur. Even they have police that they are escorting them when the people doesn't know what they are. The police is escorting the animal to the river because the people was afraid about. And by the way, this is in Kyoto, so this is Japan as well. So you can clearly see this is the giant salamander, one of the biggest amphibians in the world. And also they are protecting us to be the canary in the coal mine because they are very sensitive to any change. So they can warning us about any changes on the ecosystems. So they can also protecting us just by being there. So the thing is like, okay, I think that I already convinced you a little bit. So what you can do? So let's try to just mention certain stuff that you can do. For example, on your garden, if you are cutting your grass, you are just like do some lawning around, it's good if you just make some path around before of starting to cut the grass because you can just put the animals away this way and not just like killing them with all the machines. So this is a very easy and everybody can do that. And you are protecting any animal, not just amphibians. Of course, if you have this kind of garden instead of this kind of garden, you are also able to dwell more animals. You are also protecting and increasing the ecosystems for them. Also, you can create really nice water habitats with very cheap materials with these fancy projects from Instagram that do it yourself. Okay, you can do it yourself. This is just like an old tire, some plastic, and you just create very nice habitat for amphibians. Also, here notice that they don't like to be just like a container with water. They need something to escape from out because they are amphibians. They live also outside of the water. Okay? Also, be careful with swimming pools now that it's starting the summer. So don't let and protect your swimming pool during the winter because they can just get drawn on the swimming pool as well. They need some escape from them. So this is a way also protecting them. And please, be careful with your animals. You cannot imagine the amount of animals that are dying just because, especially because of cats. Like all rodents, small mammals, birds, lizards, anything. The cats are an incredible, massive tool of killing animals. So just like keep an eye on them, and it's better if they are already in home. They can be okay, but they cannot be just like outside on their own. And also this is together with feral cats and feral dogs. So be careful with that. And of course, you already know what is happening here. If you are keeping animals in home, just try to do or to manage them in a responsible way. Do some testing. We can provide this test in order to help you to know that they are healthy. And of course, don't mix them if you don't know if they are healthy between each other. So that's also very important. And of course, probably you already know that the stickers that are around. This is a very common way of killing animals in Okinawa. This is just like drive carefully. You are killing a lot of animals in this way, so you are going to understand these signs right now. And that's all. Thank you for your attention, and of course, if you have any questions.
Well, I don't know about you, but I've got a renewed appreciation for slimy things that hop and crawl and swim about. Any questions on the subjects that you've had? It's been a pretty thorough kind of summary of this. Yep, Fred.
If a amphibian is infected with the fungus, what can you do? Anything? Like,
Literally not, because it's a skin problem, so the amphibians are breathing through the skin. So the problem is like we can do some treatment, but in the moment that they are released again, they are able to be infected again. They don't get any resistance. So the unique tool that we can do is to avoid the dispersal of the pathogen and don't colonize new places, because the place that the pathogen arrives is going to create a big mess.
Okay, any other questions on the subject of amphibians? What can we do if you find the amphibian pathogen spreading in the wild?
Literally, the best option that you can do, and it will be very complicated that you are able to detect that, unless that you see a big amount of animals dead together. This is something that you cannot clearly identify just like touching the animal. It's a skin problem. So they are going to be causing like respiratory problems through the skin, but it's not something that you're going to see a massive injury or something like that. So the good behavior is just if you see a big amount of dead animals, just call to the local authorities, and just in our case, if you just contact me, and I can literally can check it out. And the other option is like never touch the amphibians on your own, because also the bacteria that you are having on your hands, they can even increase the problems to them. Together with these days that we are always like making hand disinfection with the alcohol, ethanol, all that kind of anti-COVID thingies, they are also kind of problematic for them. So the major thing is like don't touch them. Is this the best thing that you can do for them? Literally, like what we are trying to do is to do a thorough mapping of the disease in order to establish measures to stop the spreading of the disease, because literally in Japan it's not really well known if it is present or not. And the thing is like, looks like could be an autochthonous disease, but there is no any measure that right now is happening. So we are trying to looking for if it's affecting evenly all the territory of Japan, or for example is restricted to certain areas, so then you can focus the conservation measures on these areas or not on the others, because also it's very traumatic for some other activities. So you cannot just put a ban of measures everywhere around. You have to do like proportionally doing that kind of establishing these measures.
One question over here. What's the current conservation status of amphibians in Okinawa?
I will say that the amphibian conservation in Okinawa, it's a little different from other parts of the world, because here I will say that the major problem of amphibians is the destruction of the habitat, in contrast with other countries. Because, for example, the diseases that I was mentioned already cause, for example, in South America, the extinction of 500 species in less than 20 years. But, for example, in Asia, this trend is totally different because this behavior of the pathogen maybe is native from here. So in Okinawa, the major problem, I would say like this, the destruction of the habitat. Like by major constructions, for example, we have the Henoko, a military base that is increasing. So the destruction of that area, it's something like everybody can see. So that kind of works are causing a major problem here in Okinawa, together with roads, together with the roadkill that we were mentioned before. I will say that this is the two major things here in Okinawa.
Any other questions? One happy.
May I ask what your sampling, how are you conducting your sampling? Is it random, opportunistic?
What's your sampling methodology?
Right now, basically, because manage the money in a wise way, I'm trying to do a systematic monitoring through all Okinawa and also collaborating with other people all along Japan. So we are focused on different species all along the territory of Japan in order to see if there is difference between species. And together with, in my case, I'm increasing the sample size here in Okinawa because looks like it's a perfect area by the conditions, like very warm, very humid. This is something that the amphibians and therefore the pathogens for them like a lot.
Okay. Any more in the room? Yep. What's the biggest amphibian? What is the biggest amphibian species?
In the world, the Chinese giant salamander is bigger than the Japanese giant salamander. But what you saw on the pictures, this slimy thingy, this is one, let's say the second largest amphibian on the world. Yes.
Okay. I'll wrap up with one. What is your favorite amphibian species and why?
It depends on the day. But let's say that I really like the fire salamander, which is the most sensitive species for this pathogen, because it's one of the species that can change the color, the pattern of the color the most. So you can see completely yellow ones, completely black ones, spotted ones, striped lines. So the morphos that you can see is totally different. So that's to me very, very cool.
Brilliant. Okay, with that we're going to... Oh, no, we've got one tentative.
Are there any cases of salamanders that have been infected with the fungus healing on their own? Is it always lethal? Does it always lead to senescence?
Is the fungus always lethal? Is there any resistance or do they get better at any time?
No, and this is one of why Okinawa is so interesting for me. Not the crocodile newt, the other one, which is called the sword-tailed newt, that one looks like it's like an all-terrain newt regarding these pathogens. So he or she is able to hold the pathogen for a long time without having big problems. And you will say, cool, not cool, because also this is like a super spreader of the disease. So because they are moving a lot around, so they are transmitting the disease a lot. So this is also very important to know which populations, even on the resistant species, are able to have the disease.
Brilliant. Okay, with that, I think we'll wrap it up. If you want to get the contact details, just grab that QR code. I'll leave that up for a while if you want to get involved. Get involved with a bit of citizen science. Always helps. And, see some very, very cute amphibians. Because we love them. It's great. Anyway, thank you very much, Dr. David González.